So yesterday we talked about the parallel and perpendicular lines, and we said that parallel lines, they're lines that they never meet. And what's special about their slope? Same slope for parallel lines, right? Where the y-intercept is different, yes? For perpendicular line, we said that perpendicular line, they're lines that will meet at what angle? At 90-degree angle. So this is what we call perpendicular lines. They have to meet at a 90-degree angle, okay? So if I know the equation of one line, I can find the equation of the second line. Now in this case, the slopes are going to be what we call negative reciprocal, okay? So the word reciprocal means they are inverted, okay? So that means if the slope of the first one is, let's say, 5, okay? If the slope of the first equation is 5, the slope of the perpendicular line is, what's the invert of 5? 1 over 5, and it's going to be negative that. So it's going to be negative 1 over 5, okay? So the slope has to be negative, or the opposite sign, basically, and inverted. Okay? Remember that a whole number has a division, has a denominator of 1, right? So when I invert this, if I flip this, it becomes 1 over 5. And the opposite sign is going to be negative. All right? So let's look at another slope. If the slope is, let's say, negative 3 over 2. What would be the slope of a perpendicular line to this? 2 over 3? Do you guys agree with that? Is it positive or negative? Positive, because it's going to be the opposite sign of this, okay? If the sign is negative, then the sign of the perpendicular line is positive, and then it's going to be the flip, so it's going to be 2 over 3. Is that clear? Okay? So if I look at the set of these 4 equations of the line, so y equals 3x plus 1, y equal negative 2x plus 2, y equal negative 1 over 3x plus 6, and y equal negative 1 over 2x minus 1. Can you tell me which 2 lines are perpendicular to each other? What's the slope of the first? And third, do you guys agree with that? Because the slope of this one is negative and 1 over 3, right? Why it's not the second and the fourth? Because they're both negative, right? So this is not correct. Yes, they are the flip, right? But they both have the same sign, which is the negative sign. And that's not what the 2 perpendicular lines are. Okay? The reason for it has to be negative is because think about like perpendicular lines, right? So if a line is like this, a perpendicular line to it should be like this, right? So it forms a 90-degree. Do you guys see that? So if you look at the first line is going down, but the second line is going up. Right? So one's going to have a negative slope while the other one's going to have a positive slope. And that's why they're negative each other. Okay? So we know that y equal 3x plus 1 and y equal negative 1 over 3x plus 6 are perpendicular lines because their slopes are negative reciprocal. Are we okay with this? Okay, so let's look at some of the support questions. So it's asking you to write an equation that is perpendicular to each equation below. Okay? So if I want to write an equation that's perpendicular to y equal x plus 7, what do I do? Negative 1x. Negative 1x. And how about your y-intercept? Whatever, right? Good. So what's the slope here? What's the slope for this y equal x plus 7? 1, right? What's the reciprocal of 1? 1 over 1. I don't flip the x, right? So if I want to flip 1, right, it's actually 1 over 1. If I want to flip it, it stays 1 over 1. Yes? But it's negative. So the equation of my perpendicular line is negative 1 over 1x is still x, plus whatever number you want. You can write minus 3 if you want, or plus 2, or plus 5. It doesn't matter. The y-intercept does not matter. You can leave it just plus 7. Yep. Okay. Okay, let's look at B. A perpendicular line to this. What's my slope for this one? Negative 1 over 2. If I'm looking for the slope of a perpendicular line, I have to flip the slope, so it becomes 2 over 1. And then instead of negative, it becomes positive. So the slope for the perpendicular line is 2x plus whatever you want to use, okay? So what happened here is I flipped the 1/2, right? Flip the 1/2, it becomes 2 over 1. 2 over 1 is the same thing as writing 2. And then instead of negative, it becomes a positive because it's the opposite sign. Let's look at C. What would be a perpendicular line to y equals 5x plus 6? What's the slope for C? The slope is 5. So what do I do with the slope to find a perpendicular line? Flip it. If I flip this, this is 5 over 1. So it becomes 1 over 5. And it has to become negative because it's negative, the reciprocal, x minus 2. Sure, whatever. Again, this number right here, you can pick whatever number you would like to add to your equation, okay? There's no restriction in this case. Unless they tell you that your y-intercept is 4, then you must put it as 4, okay? But if they don't tell you, then you can pick whatever number you want. That's right. That's negative 1 over 5x. And then minus 2. Let's look at question number 5. So question number 5 says, circle then graph the pair of equations that are perpendicular. So which pair of equations are perpendicular? First and the last? Yes? Yeah. Why first and the last? Okay, the slope is 4 here, right? For the last one, the slope is negative 1 over 4. So I flip the slope, right? Instead of 4 over 1, it becomes 1 over 4, and it's negative. Why it's not this one? That's 1 over 4 as well, but why not this one? It's still a positive. They have to be opposite sign. Okay? Are we okay with this, everyone? All right, so it's this one and this one. Let's graph. Okay, so for the first equation, where do I start? If I look at 4x plus 5, where do I start? Where's my y-intercept? No, where's my y-intercept? So you have 4 where's my y-intercept in this equation? 5. That's my y-intercept. So this is where I have to start. Okay? So my y-intercept is at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what does my slope tell me I have to do? Go up how much? Go up 4 over 1. So my slope says I have to go up 4, right 1. If you guys still don't know this, it's going to be a problem. Okay? So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So I went up 4 over 1. This is where my next point is. I can try one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1. So this is where my next point is. So that's the first equation, which is y equals 4x plus 5. Now my second equation is y equal negative 1 over 4x plus 2. Okay? Y equals negative 1 over 4x plus 2. Where's my y-intercept? 2. So my y-intercept is at 2. And what does my slope say? 1 down, 4 to the right. This one says 1 down because it's negative. And it's always to the right. Okay? So I have to go 1 down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. Again, let's try one more time. 1 down, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. If I extend this blue one, right, you see that they're going to meet right here at a 90-degree angle. Okay, they're going to meet right here at a 90-degree angle. Okay? You guys good with this? And the equation for this one, I'm going to write it in red. And y equals negative 1 over 4x plus 2. And the last question is asking you to change it from standard form to the y-intercept form, and then to pick the equations that are perpendicular to each other. So I'm going to do one question with you guys. So 3x minus 6y plus 7 equals 0. What number was that? Number 7? Was it number 7 or 8? 6? Okay. What do I do to isolate, to make it into y equals mx plus b? Negative 6y. Yeah. So I have to bring the 3x over, and I have to bring the 7 over. Remember that I want to leave the y by itself. So to bring the 3x over, it becomes negative 3x. To bring the 7 over, it becomes negative 7. All right? What would be my next step? Divide by negative 6 because I want to get rid of that negative 6 that's multiplied by the y. Yes? So I have to divide each term by negative 6. These cancels. So I'm left with y equals to, I want to simplify negative 3 over negative 6. Negative over negative makes positive. And what can I divide both 3 and 6 by? I can divide them both by 3. So if I divide them both by 3, that gives me a half, yeah? Because 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So a half x. And then for this one, I can't simplify. The only thing I can do is I can get rid of the 2 negatives and make a positive.
But I could still write that
As a decimal.
write it that way. Because I would have just done it, my answer would have been 0.5.
Yes, and that's fine. But then when you, if I ask you to graph this, are you going to be able to graph it properly if you don't have a fraction of a slope?
Yeah, it's just half of the,
But in this case, you're going to go up 1 over 2. Yeah? If you have half, what are you going to do? Right? That's why I would like to have the slope as a fraction. If you have the other number as a decimal, I'm okay with it. But then the slope, it's better if it's a fraction. So you need to know how to reduce fractions. Okay? And to reduce fractions, you're always looking for a number that you can divide both top and bottom by.
is there a trick to that? Or is there like a way to,
You should know that 0.5 is 1 over 2. That's an easy,
right?
right?
know-
But then for the other ones, you always have to look at, I don't know, like if you have, let's say, 21 over 7, that's easy. Let's do 12, 4 over 12, right? You're going to look and you're going to say, okay, both of them are divisible by 2, let's say. Okay? Because they're both even numbers. So that's going to be 2 over 6. But I can still divide both of them by 2 again, right? So that's 1 over 2, 1 over 3. Right? So you're going to look at a number that you can divide both terms by. Now you might have to do it twice, or if you think about it right away and you think that I can divide both of them by 4, it's just knowing your multiplication table. Yeah, that's the trick. Or get a good calculator. That does it for you. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is I want you to finish the 3 questions that are right here. And then to find the 2 equations that are perpendicular. Okay, and then you're going to finish your homework. Okay, today is the last day. Tomorrow I want all the key questions handed in. Okay, they should be neat on a piece on either in a notebook or a piece of paper where I can actually read them and I know where the answer is.
I have like some of the questions in this and then some of those that need to be graphed so that I have this will just have both of you.
Sure, as long as I can find the answer.
Yeah,